Hey YouTube, I'm Shane, Hey Crashers, I'm Shane, the Crashing Dad, and if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that I ride the Rocky Mountain Altitude Alloy 70, and I have been for a year now. And I guess we could call this my long-term year review or follow-up, whatever you want to call it. Now, did I customize anything? Well, yeah, the first thing I did was throw a new fork on there. I've got the MRP ribbon coil on there, and oh, that's a whole separate review in and of itself. This thing feels amazing. And of course I've got my Pedaling Innovations Catalyst pedals on there. The more that I go back and forth between other pedals and the Catalyst pedals, I keep coming back to the Catalyst just for the stability. I feel like I'm on skis going down the mountain. And I put carbon bars on there and the rev grips. I feel like the rev grips are definitely the way to go. I did the PNW stem just so I could get that extra GoPro view. And I changed the saddle out to an ergon saddle just because my butt didn't really like the WTB saddle, but everyone's butts are different. For reference, just a little bit of history about me, I didn't BMX as a kid. I didn't come into mountain biking with a bunch of handling skills. I skateboarded and then I injured my ankles and knees, went into road biking. I did road biking for, I know, it's embarrassing. I was a spandex warrior for quite a while and I did some triathlons and then eventually made my way into mountain biking when I moved out to Colorado. I probably came into mountain biking in the most horrible way. I thought, hey, I'm gonna buy this $400 hardtail and decide if I like mountain biking or not. And I have some earlier, more embarrassing videos of me riding that hardtail and upgrading it, trying to make it better, when in all reality, I probably should have just bought a better bike. But I didn't know if I was gonna keep going into it or not. I really was just feeling it out. If I was smart, I probably would have just continued to rent and then realized, hey, I love this, I need to invest in a really nice bike. So with that frame of reference, knowing that I didn't come into this with any natural skills or talent like a lot of other people do, here's what I think about the Rocky Mountain Altitude. Now the Altitude has 150 millimeters of squish in the rear and 160 up front, which is kind of a long travel 27.5, and I liked having all of that travel as a beginner to give me confidence on the trail. Even though we all know that it's the rider, not the bike, I still felt like with the confidence that the long travel gave me, I was able to try more things. I was able to progress a lot quicker. Really, right after I bought the Altitude, first day out on the trail, I was conquering things that had scared me so much in the past. The Altitude really transformed me as a rider. Now you can say that it's not all about the bike and it's 90% rider or whatever it is, and I have to agree to an extent, but I also think that if you don't have a bike that lets you feel confident enough to try the gnarly stuff or to try and progress, that holds you back. So it kind of is the bike in a sense. So yes, I felt like the long travel of the Altitude gave me enough room to grow and to try new things, but I also feel like it's more like a shorter travel trail bike that, for me, I felt like I could flick it around or be more playful with it. I know we're talking all these cliche industry words, but really, they use those words for a reason. The Altitude really did make me want to play around a lot and find all of those little side hits off the trail that not everyone sees and not everyone takes. It really was just all about having so much fun. So I do stand by my initial review from a year ago. Okay, so things that I know now after a year, they can't all be good. Now the first thing that I learned is very specific to the size medium in alloy with 150 millimeter Fox transfer dropper post. The actuator at the very bottom of the dropper post, when it's fully inserted, ever so slightly touches the frame. So when I'd put power down out of the saddle, I'd hear a little tiny creak. So once we found out that that's where the creak was coming from, it was as simple as flipping the dropper post around and turning the saddle around. Now the second thing I learned on the 2018 build was very specific to the spec. The wheels have an internal diameter of 25 millimeters, the Sunduroc 30s, and they spec'd Maxxis wide trail tires on them. So I felt like the rims were too narrow for the tires, and the tires ballooned out a little bit, so I felt like I was getting some squidginess on my bike. I originally was thinking, oh, it's an alloy bike, I didn't get carbon, but I ended up trying my friend's wheels, which actually had a 30 millimeter diameter on them with the regular wide trail tires, and it stiffened right up. And it just so happened that I dented my rims anyway to the point of not being able to ride them even with Cushcore. Yeah, the rims are a little bit soft. So I had them relaced up with some spank wheels. I still think that the rim damage probably comes down to user error. I'm a little bit heavy-footed when it comes to riding through rock gardens and such. The third thing that I learned, I thought that it was awesome that they spec'd it with a DT Swiss rear hub. Now it's a DT Swiss 370 hub, which is actually a Paul system. I was expecting a DT Swiss hub with the Star Ratchet system. So that was kind of bummer, but it was still upgradable. I didn't have to lace a new hub into wheels or buy new wheels. So I was able to upgrade the 3 Paul system to a Star Ratchet system, and put the 54 2-star ratchets in there. Now the next thing that I learned, I didn't really notice it. It was my wife. She jumped on my bike and she was standing over it and she noticed that, hey, this standover is really tall. Now to her it felt really tall. For me, I've never really stood over my bike. I always have one foot on a pedal and I might be, you know, kind of leaning, tripoding down off to the other side. I looked up the geometries and it is a little bit high. And the thing is, the standover height is the same across the board for extra small all the way to extra large. But again, I didn't notice it as a rider. But I'm never standing with the bike in between my legs and both feet on the ground. No big deal to me, but it might be a big deal to you. Standover is a big thing. Now another thing that everyone is always gonna bring up is it
doesn't have a threaded bottom bracket.
And I was thinking, okay, I really like this bike. I fall in love with it. I love the way that it rides. I love the way that it makes me ride. So I was ready to make the upgrade with the Wheels MFG bottom bracket. And basically, it screws into itself, turns your press fit bottom bracket into a threaded bottom bracket. But after a year of riding in all sorts of weather, from desert riding that's super dusty to mountain riding that's super wet and muddy, I haven't had any problems with my bottom bracket. It's still silent, I'm not getting any creaks. Feels great, so no problems there. Now another thing that I learned that really comes down to me with user error is I didn't check my linkage bolts and I ruined some bearings. Now the thing about the Rocky Mountains is they're hiding the chainstay linkage bolts inside the frame. So if you want to go through and tighten those bolts, give them a check, you've got to pull that rear wheel out and tighten it from the inside. So I didn't know. I was stupid. I was a newbie. I learned the hard way. I didn't tighten them down and I ruined some bearings. So check your bolts.
Check your linkage.
Check your linkage.
Okay, now the thing that I probably played with the most with the Rocky Mountain was the Ride 9 chips. You can basically, from steep to neutral to slack, you have 9 different settings that you can set your bike up with. And I played with the Ride 9 so much. Now, not only do I feel like Rocky Mountain have perfected the 4-bar horse link suspension design, but they have added so much diversity with the Ride 9 flip chips. So yes, there are 9 positions in there, and it doesn't sound sexy to say, but I found that I love it in the steep position. Now, everyone says, oh, I'll put it in the slack, party all day. But for everyday trail riding, I love putting it in the steep position. I'll keep the rebound a little bit quicker than normal, and it feels like a 130 trail bike that's just so poppy and so playful. But when I want to get rough and go to the bike park, I'll put it in the slack position, slow down that rebound a little bit, and this thing just takes it like a champ. It feels like a completely different bike, and this thing just tracks the ground like crazy. I feel like there's 2 different bikes and everything in between, all with this Ride 9 system. So after a year, do I still love the Rocky Mountain Altitude? Yes, I do, but, and this is a but that is mainly opinion. This bike has helped me progress so much as a rider, and the more that I ride, the more I progress, the better I feel, the more comfortable I feel, the more I'm starting to gravitate to 29. All of the downsides that I felt on 29ers as a beginner, I feel like have just gone away. I can handle the bike more. I can deal with the turnover. The geometry has gotten so much better that the downsides for me have basically disappeared, and all I see are the upsides of the rollover. So after a year, the Rocky Mountain Altitude is going up for sale. I'm gonna sell it. We've been through a lot together. I'm starting to think that I'm probably gonna shop for 135 to 145, 150 travel 29er as a do-everything bike, all-day trail, and as a park bike. So go ahead, hate on me for going from 27.5 to 29. That's just the way things are. Who knows? I might come back to 27.5. Who knows? Maybe 36ers are gonna be the way of the future. Or we might go back to 26ers for their maneuverability and controllability. Who knows? But right now, all I know is I still love the Altitude, but a new wheel size is in store for me. I'll probably be looking, maybe something like the regular Santa Cruz High Tower, or the Ibis Ritmo, or the Gorilla Gravity Smash. And of course, I'm gonna consider the Rocky Mountain Instinct, just because I'm so used to the Rocky Mountains, and I think they ride amazing. So I've been happy with a year on this bike, and I think if you were to pick up the Altitude, if you were considering it, it's definitely a great option. People are messaging me all the time on Instagram, and we're talking back and forth about bikes, and I still think that the Altitude is a great option. Now thank you guys for watching. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. There might be some more crashing here in the future. Have a great day. Take care. Adios. All right. Bye-bye.
Oh. You right, man? Yeah, I think so. Oh. Kind of had the wind knocked out of me. Take a seat. Oh. Oh. Oh.
Bye.